Both of them playing here on a major league field and gone.
The Willie Mays of shortstops, the best prospect potentially since Mike Trout.
In his second spring training game ever, Konnor Griffin, a 19-year-old kid, stepped into the box against Red Sox lefty Ranger Suarez, and this kid, who hasn't even played a single inning of AAA baseball in his life yet, sent it over the replica Green Monster, 374 feet, 105 miles per hour off the bat, and then proceeded to do it again later in the game. And I'm sitting here watching this, and I can't stop thinking, man, the Pittsburgh Pirates might actually be for real this year. And he might just be the piece that puts them all the way over the top. Now, before we get into the video, guys, again, thanks so much for your support on the road to 50,000 subscribers. We're giving away copies of MLB The Show 2026 as the season starts soon. So if you want a copy, just put hashtag 2K in the comments below. Also, shout out to our sponsor for today's video, Vuori. They are an incredibly comfortable, quality, an amazing athleisure, activewear, performance training, lounge recovery, whatever type of vibe you're going for, Vuori has clothes for you. It honestly is amazing. I wear them to the gym. I wear them when I'm just chilling on the couch. I wear them if I'm going on a run, going out to work. It honestly is amazing. I'm wearing it right now. If you can't tell, it's really comfortable, really high quality. So guys, please go check out Vuori. First time purchases get 20% off their first order when they sign up for emails. I'll add all the information in the description below. Guys, check them out. Thank you, Vuori, for the sponsorship today. Now that that's out of the way, let's get right into it. So let's start off with some necessary context. Last season in 2025, they went 71-91. They fired their manager, Derek Shelton, 30 games into the season after going 12-26. They finished last in the NL Central. They scored the fewest runs in all of Major League Baseball, just 583 on the year. They hit the fewest home runs in baseball with only 117. They had the worst slugging percentage in the game at 350 and the worst OPS at 655. There was a point in 2025, early May, before the manager got fired, where Paul Skeens walked off the mound after another loss in a game where his team scored him 0 runs, and at the end of the season, he basically said out loud that this was a wasted year if nothing changed.
This is a wasted year if we don't learn what we need to do, and we don't know why we didn't go out there and do what we wanted to do.
Arguably the best pitcher on the planet, just 2 years into his big league career, standing there essentially saying, guys, we gotta figure this out or I'm out of here. That's how bad the Pittsburgh Pirates are. We know that. So yeah, they're a mess. A team where careers go to die and prospects get rushed because there's nothing else around them.
In McCutcheon, you're in my Pirate Hall of Fame, but when it's time to play, you gotta be serious. Quit smiling, joking all the damn game, and then you get up there with 2 runners on, and you just have 3 of the worst swings I've ever seen. That's not leadership, and that's not veteran life. This thing is bad, and it's embarrassing, and I'm screaming on Mother's Day, and I hate it.
But here's the thing. I think 2026 might just be different. And the reason it might be different starts with the most electric young player in baseball. Let me tell you about Konnor Griffin, because if you don't know who this kid is already, you are about to. He's from Jackson, Mississippi. He's 6'4", 225-pound shortstop who runs like a safety but hits like a cleanup hitter. He won the Gatorade National High School Player of the Year award his senior spring, hitting .559 and stealing 85 bases. When the 2024 MLB draft came around, the only downside on Griffin was that the hit tool was a question mark. He had all the physical tools in the world, plus speed, plus power, a cannon for an arm, could play shortstop or center field, but some scouts said his swing had holes in it and that there were swing and miss concerns. So despite being arguably the most tooled up high school player in that entire draft class, he fell to 9th overall, where the Pirates swooped in and signed him for $6.53 million.
He could be an absolute monster. I love when teams go for ceiling, especially you're picking 9th. We might look back and go, how'd that guy last 9 picks?
He started the year at Single-A Bradenton, then finished it at Double-A Altoona. In between, he hit .333 with a .415 on-base percentage and a .527 slugging percentage across 122 games. But the splits don't really put into perspective how dominant he was. The kid hit 21 home runs, he stole 65 bases, and had 48 total extra base hits at 18 and 19 years old. Let that sink in, and let's get some historical perspective here. Konnor Griffin became the 5th ever teenager to hit at least 20 home runs and steal at least 40 bases in a single minor league season. The only other teenagers in professional baseball history to accomplish both of those feats: Andrew Jones, Ronald Acuna Jr., Jackson Chourio, and Alex Escobar. You want to talk about elite company? That is the Hall of Fame of elite company. His performance was so ridiculous that Baseball America named him their 2025 Minor League Player of the Year, and by August 2025, he had climbed all the way to the #1 overall prospect in baseball on MLB Pipeline's top 100 list. Kylie McDaniel over at ESPN even said Griffin was so far ahead of the #2 prospect that he basically broke the algorithm used to calculate the value of farm systems. He said that Griffin, quote, basically broke the algorithm and that the gap between him and the next few prospects feels correct. Every instinct in a front office says you slow play someone like this. You protect the service time clock. You don't rush him, just like they did with Paul Skeens. But then in spring training the other day, he hits 2 home runs with almost 105-mile-per-hour exit velocity. The public demand for calling him up is overwhelming, especially when this is the Pirates' best roster in years. Plus, if he does miraculously make the Pirates opening day roster, he'd be the youngest player to do so since Adrian Beltre in 1999. Before we get to what Griffin adds to this offense, let me remind you why the Pirates are already a scary team to face. Because the pitching staff is underestimated, guys. Let's start with Paul Skeens, obviously. The cat, he's 23. He is pitching at a level that doesn't exist in sports right now. When CBS Sports broke down his career 2.15 ERA plus, meaning he's been over twice as effective than the average pitcher across both his big league seasons, they noted that the gap between Skeens and the second name on that list was the same as the gap between the second name and the 12th name on the list.
Paul Skeens of the Pittsburgh Pirates is the best pitching prospect I have ever seen in my life. We are watching every 5th day now in Pittsburgh the opportunity to see a Hall of Fame talent throw a baseball 60 feet 6 inches.
The only issue with Skeens is in 2025 was that the offense kept leaving him out to dry. He finished with a 10-10 record because the Pirates just couldn't score runs despite having a league-leading 1.97 ERA. He literally won in only 2 games where he allowed more than 0 earned runs. When he gave up a run, they lost almost every time. That's not a Skeens problem. That's an everyone else problem. That's an offensive problem. Then you have Bubba Chandler, and this is honestly where it gets really exciting for 2026 because Chandler came up late in August 2025 after being ranked as the #1 pitching prospect in all of baseball by MLB Pipeline coming into last season. When he finally got to the show, he was electric. His 4-seam fastball averages nearly 99 miles an hour and touches triple digits sometimes. His changeup and his slider, opposing hitters are hitting like 80 and 87 against them last season respectively. After a rough first start against Milwaukee where the Brewers tagged him, Chandler went out and just dominated in his final 3 starts, posting a 1.08 ERA with 19 strikeouts and 0 walks across 16 and 2/3 innings. His overall MLB debut stint finished with a 3.09 ERA and a 30% whiff rate. ESPN has him as a serious candidate for the NL Rookie of the Year award in 2026, now that he'll be in the rotation full time. So if Chandler figures it out in his first big league season, you're looking at a 1-2 punch with Skeens and Chandler that very few teams in baseball can match. And then you still have Mitch Keller, who is probably the most underappreciated piece of the rotation in my view because, you know, I know his 2025 record looked bad, 6-15, but if you dig a little deeper, he posted a 4.19 ERA across 176 innings, made 17 quality starts, which was top 20 in all of baseball, and was dealing with absolutely brutal run support all season long. It also doesn't help that his defense being awful as evidenced by the fact that his FIP has been lower than his ERA for the last 5 years. But now he gets to pitch in front of a more capable defense and with Skeens and Chandler flanking him in the rotation. So he's going to look a lot better with some run support. And this is all without mentioning Jared Jones, another young triple-digit tossing Pirates pitcher who, although is hurt at the moment, is going to be huge addition to the Bucs pitching staff. Add in a young arm like Braxton Ashcroft, who was called up last season, and Jose Urquidy, who was signed this offseason, and you've got a rotation from top to bottom there. Skeens, Chandler, Keller, Ashcraft, Urquidy, that can go toe-to-toe with some of the better pitching staffs in the league. The question mark always has been the offense, and that is where things finally are starting to change in Pittsburgh. So how about the offense? This is the part that kept the Pirates from being relevant for the last few years. It's also the part that the Pirates front office actually addressed this offseason in a way that was honestly surprising given the fact of how cheap this ownership group has historically been.
The Pittsburgh Pirates are basically tempting the universe and the baseball gods to continue to ruin their existence.
So let's paint a picture of what this lineup looked like last year. Dead last in home runs in baseball, dead last in OPS, dead last in slugging percentage, 583 runs scored, also last in the entire league, by the way. Painful to watch. O'Neal Cruz, who is supposed to be their cornerstone offensive player, hit 200 on the year. He became the first player in baseball history with 20 plus home runs and 30 plus steals, but while still hitting below 230 in a single season. He was also ranked in the bottom 3% of all hitters in whiff rate and the bottom 2% in strikeout rate. His splits against left-handed pitching were genuinely hard to watch. He hit 102 against lefties with 44 strikeouts in just 108 at-bats. And the defense was not much help either. Cruz posted 0 defensive runs saved in his first season at center field. And losing manager Derek Shelton mid-year seems to have genuinely impacted Cruz's comfort level, because before Shelton got fired, Cruz had an 861 OPS with 8 homers in 35 games. But after he got fired, the OPS plummeted to just 608 and he hit just 12 home runs over the next 100 games.
I'd pay to go see a 6'7" center fielder if he can play it. He can't. He's going to catch on because he's a great athlete, but I don't see it.
The good news is that O'Neal Cruz this spring is reportedly showing a different mindset. He requested to face left-handed pitchers in batting practice, specifically asking to go against new lefty reliever Mason Montgomery just to challenge himself. Manager Don Kelly said, and I'm quoting him here, he's challenging himself, he wants to get better, he's working his tail off every day, outfields, hitting, everything to be better. Cruz also had an offseason where he worked with 4-time Gold Glove winner Kevin Kiermaier on his center field reads and routes. The potential is still there, but the Pirates desperately need him to be more consistent. Then you got Brian Reynolds. Their switch hitting out corner outfielder is still the steady presence in this lineup, consistently a 280 range hitter who gets on base and plays solid defense. But now, for the first time in a while, he's going to have some actual protection in the lineup around him. Because this offseason, the Pittsburgh Pirates went out and actually did something. They traded for second baseman Brandon Lau from the Rays. Lau hit 31 home runs in 2025. That is a huge addition for a team that was dead last in the long ball last year. Since 2020, among primary second basemen, only Marcus Semien has hit more home runs than Lau. And get this, despite Lau playing 204 fewer games in that same span, Semien only has 4 more home runs. The Pirates also signed Ryan O'Hearn to a 2-year, $29 million deal. This was the first time the Pirates signed a position player in free agency to a multi-year deal since Russell Martin in 2012. That, however pathetic it sounds, has to tell you something about how they're actually starting to take themselves seriously. O'Hearn was an all-star with the Orioles in 2025. Slash 281, 366, 437 across his time between Baltimore and San Diego. Hit 17 home runs and doesn't strike out that much. He can play first base or left field. This is a great signing for Pittsburgh. And then to top it all off, right before spring training, they went out and signed Marcell Ozuna, former 3-time All-Star, former Silver Slugger, former MVP finalist, 1-year, $12 million deal.
They should be in win now mode. They know the Skeens window is closing. It's closing fast, and that they have to do something to maximize it.
Now, Ozuna's 2025 was a down year compared to his peak. He hit 232 with 21 homers and a 756 OPS. Partially that's because of a right hip issue in the first half that he dealt with, but you know what? Like, that's still a 113 OPS plus, meaning he was 13% better than the league average hitter even in his down year. And in 2023 and in 2024, Ozuna was one of the best sluggers in the National League. 40 homers and a 905 OPS in 2023, 39 homers and a 925 OPS, and 4th place MVP voting in 2024. One of only 4 hitters in the NL to hit at least 20 home runs in each of the last 4 seasons. So think about what that lineup suddenly looks like. You've got Cruz leading off or hitting high in the order, Reynolds as your switch hitter, Lau with 30 homer pop, O'Hearn getting on base and driving in runs, Ozuna as the veteran right-handed designated hitter, Spencer Horwitz, who went off to hit 314, 402, 539 down the stretch last year after a slow start, and at the back of all of that, potentially the number one prospect in all of baseball in Konnor Griffin. The offense just went from being an embarrassment to being, on paper, legitimately capable of competing with anyone in this league. So now let's go back to Konnor Griffin, because all of those offensive auditions are nice. But if Griffin is healthy, if Griffin gets called up, and if Griffin does to major league pitching what he did to minor league pitching last year, this lineup goes from being a legitimate offense to being legitimately dangerous. His scouting grades are absurd. Baseball America has him at 60 hits, 70 power, 70 run, 60 field, 70 arm. Keep in mind, 80 is the max, and he's already topping out at 19. He made mechanical changes to his swing and then went out and hit 333 at 3 different levels of minor league baseball in his single season. He got better as he moved up. He went from low A to high A to double A, and at every stop of the way, the numbers held up. That is the hallmark of a real hitter. Now, there is a real conversation to be had about whether Griffin makes the opening day roster, because the service time clock argument is obviously very valid. If the Pirates hold him down in the minors until, say, late April or early May, they buy themselves an extra year of team control. This is the exact same thing the Pirates did a few years ago with Paul Skeens. But if he does make opening day, he joins a very short and elite list of players who debuted in the big leagues before turning 20. But given what he showed in spring training so far, and given the urgency created by Paul Skeens literally saying last September to the media that the Pirates cannot waste another year, I'd be surprised if they don't find a way to get this kid to Pittsburgh at some point in the 2026 season. The pressure to win now is real. Skeens is 23. His extension talks are already a topic. The window to keep him in Pittsburgh long term is open right now, and every year that closes a little. You don't sit on Konnor Griffin when your entire franchise is on the line. All right, so here is where I'm going to make my case, and I want you to hear me out, because I know Pittsburgh has been a punchline. I know some of you guys are rolling your eyes, but hear me out. The NL wildcard race in 2025 was won by teams with records in the low to mid 80s. The last wildcard spot often goes to a team around 83 to 84 wins. Last year, the Cincinnati Reds got into the postseason at 83 wins. The bar is not as high as people think it is. So now let's count up what the 2026 Pirates have. You got Paul Skeens, you had Bubba Chandler, who looks like a potential star and who ESPN already has as a Rookie of the Year candidate. You have Mitch Keller, you got Braxton Ashcroft coming in as a promising young arm rounding out the rotation, and Urquidy as a veteran innings eater. Then you have the bullpen, which has some new pieces in Gregory Soto and Mason Montgomery joining the existing group. The defense has a lot of question marks. Cruz in center field is a mystery, and some of the corner bats aren't natural outfielders, but the pitching is good enough to absorb some of them. On offense, you now have a top to bottom lineup where almost every spot has a legitimate major league bat. Lau brings the 30 homer pop. O'Hearn brings a solid OBP and gap power. Ozuna brings veteran right-handed power in the middle of the order. Reynolds brings consistency. Cruz, even in his worst case scenario, is bringing 20 home runs and elite speed. Horwitz is a contact machine who does not waste plate appearances. And then if Konnor Griffin arrives, you suddenly have a different team. That is a wild card team, people. I'm calling it right now. If Konnor Griffin comes to the majors at some point in 2026, this team is going to the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win a World Series. I'm not saying they're going to run away with NL Central, obviously, but an 85-win team that fights for a wild card spot, that is absolutely in play. The city of Pittsburgh deserves better than what they've had to deal with, and for the first time in a long time, the pieces are actually falling into place. The only question now is, will the ownership fumble it? And if they don't, how fast is Pittsburgh going to actually make this happen? But that's all for me today, guys. Let me know what you think. Will Konnor Griffin be in the major leagues this year? Do you think the Pirates, regardless, are a playoff team, a wild card team? And subscribe if you enjoyed the video, guys. YouTube's algorithm is all over the place. If you don't subscribe, you may not see my videos ever again, and I really would love to see you guys again on the next video. So please subscribe, turn notifications on. I'll see you on the next one.